since we had our last show, we now know that Bruce Meyer is going to lead the Players Association, aka the union. This came out yesterday, passing first breaking that he was unanimously elected as executive director of the Players Association. Now, it sounds like there's dissension. I'll let everyone know because we do this all the time on both sides. Owners and players, when they're voting for things, often will disagree on things, and then it's almost like a revote, and then everybody says, yep, we agree, because you can chat. I mean, remember, AJ, they had a meeting first the day before, and then they're like, wait, hold up. There's probably a million phone calls that go down with different players, and then they all get on the same page, and they say, hey, this guy has been here for years. He knows the deal. He knows how to say no to MLB. He's still going to be the lead negotiator, which is actually a little bit uncommon. Usually you have the leader and then the number 2, which is Matt Nussbaum, who enters that role. But Meyer has been in this role now for a while, going up against Manfred's number 2, the deputy commissioner, whose name is Stan Halem. That Meyer and Halem will still duke it out starting in a couple months when negotiations begin. And I say that in air quotes because they're really not going to do much until like next February.
Geez, Scott, you're putting a long time.
I'm just being real about how this stuff goes.
I know.
They say like blah, 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 talk in 10 months.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I saw Bruce last night at the Playmakers Classic that we were at, and he was happy. He looked relieved. He looked stressed, but when I talked to him, he gave me a hug, and I congratulate him.
Bruce stressed Meyer. Or relieved? No, he said he looked relieved or stressed.
He looked stressed, but then he looked relieved after we talked, and he said, I'm happy that it's over with. I'm very excited to get this job done, and now I'm ready to rock and roll. So I think it was the right move for the players to have someone that was already in the room. And the most important part for me is the owners know what they're getting in Bruce Meyer. Whether you love him or hate him as a player, you know what he's going to do, and he's going to negotiate the hell out of this CBA for his side, which is the players. And listen, we had Scott Boras on. We talked Tarek Skubal arbitration case. Bruce Meyer went in there and was the final argument for Tarek Skubal. That's what you want, because I know, and I heard this from numerous people, when they saw Bruce Meyer, they were not happy on the owner's side when Bruce Meyer sat down, because he knows the CBA, he knows labor law, and he knows how to get things done. So I think this was a nice hire. Now, how long will it last? I don't know. Bruce, does he have the greatest personality in the world? No, but you're not getting this job for personality. Don Fear didn't have the greatest personality in the world either. So, but he was great at what his job is, and Bruce Meyer's job is to get a win on the CBA for the players and to keep baseball going strong the way it is.
Todd, can I just bring up an analogy that I think will help this case too?
Sure.
So let's say you have an agent and some people are like, he's not the most fun to get drinks with, or he doesn't totally understand my game, whatever, but he always gets me the best deals or the best contracts. That's their job, right? So you may not like or love the person. I bet Bruce Meyer is not the funniest person in the world. I don't want him to be the funniest person in the world. I want him to be the guy that knows how to say no if another entity like MLB is trying to bully the players, right? Because they have a billion lawyers. The Players Association has a billion lawyers too, but you can't have a guy that's like, yeah, you know what? That's fine. We'll just do that. It's okay.
Yeah, I think you're 100% accurate with that. He's a guy, for me, when I was there, he went unnoticed. And I think that's, in all fairness, that's a really good thing. These are the type of people that are the quietest in the room. The person that's like, who's that in the corner? I don't recognize him. Oh, that's Bruce or whomever. But for a guy like this, I said hi to him a couple times, never really got in depth in conversation. That's the guy I was always looking out for in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, this guy wants to be here and he wants to help out these players. And whether you love him or hate him, he's the guy now. For how long, again, we don't know, but he's the guy. I think he's going to put it in his back pocket and say, listen, it's my turn. However, I got this job right now, whatever. We're going to put that away, put that to the side. It's my turn to show what I got here. And to, all due respect to the owners, I think they're, maybe a little worried here about who is in charge and how new and how different Bruce is going to go about his business to protect these players. And we'll see next year, come 27. But ultimately, this changes the game for everybody and everyone involved.
Yeah, and Chris Bassitt had some really strong public comments over the last few days. But AJ, he has pointed out that there's a lot of confusion sometimes, because if you go back a couple years, there was a group of players that were trying to get a new regime to take over, and Bassitt felt like there was a lot of confusion about who, is friends with who and who's supposed to be talking to who. He's like, some players are like, oh, he talks to Boris. No shit. He represents a ton of players. Here's one of the quotes. So Andy Koska pointing this one out from Bassitt, who's now on the Orioles, MLBPA subcommittee member on the salary cap debate. He said, the cap's not the issue. Having suppressed salaries across the league so owners can make more money is not the answer. But also, he gave credit to Bruce and to Matt Nussbaum, who's now the number 2 here, for having players' backs during this investigation that was going on. As Tony Clark had the sister-in-law thing going that we just found out about, and I think it was a shock to many, and that was discovered by this outside firm that was hired because Tony Clark was being investigated by the feds. So if they end up finding something with Tony, who is representing the players? You bring in this firm, they start their own investigation, they find out what's going on with Tony outside of the investigation, which was the inappropriate relationship, the Jerry Springer situation going on with Tony and his sister-in-law. But I'll take the quote here from Bruce Meyer about Tony Clark, because he worked for him, right? But he said, I'm not going to say this is a great thing. This is unforeseen. There have been some issues hanging over, as you know, and in some respects, it's good to get them out of the way sooner rather than later. It's the same. So he said, same legal team, same player stances, all of that. But now you don't have the distractions of everything that was going on with Tony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything. There was a lot happening. FBI investigations. Now they find this. Guys trying to get him out. And if you remember, Scott, I think it was it CAA's group of guys that kind of banded together and then went, I don't know, I hate to call out certain people. And then, there was a little bit of
we
this.
We can say some names, Flaherty and
Giolito. Was it Giolito? Flaherty?
Yeah, they were part, and there were others too, but there was a group.
But what they wanted, though, if you remember, is they wanted an audit to see where they were spending the money, right? Because I think for years the union has kind of gone unchecked. I know I was in the union forever, and I don't know what they spend all the money on. They took a lot of our money, right, Todd? And they said, oh, we're putting it in a war chest, and they're doing this for later,
chest,
right? But and then you got a check of it back, but it wasn't always the full amount because they had to spend some for time and to do things and to fly the guys around, and which is fine. I get that part, but no one has ever checked what they're doing. So I think if I'm correct, that's kind of where this all started, is they wanted an audit to see what the thing was spending on. The union fought it back. And then after a while, they got those guys out because those guys were on the subcommittee. They kicked them out. And now here we are with a different subcommittee, and they approved Bruce Meyer. So it's a lot of, and it's too much to get way too deep into the weeds. But yeah, I just feel like they chose the right guy. And I think this will unify the players because everywhere you look, oh, there's blood in the water. There's blood in the water. Tony's gone. Well, guess what? You just brought a bulldog in Bruce Meyer to clean up that blood.
Yeah, and he's not held back with any distractions now, Todd. Sorry, he's not held back.
That's what I was going to say. It's his game now. You know what I mean? He can step on toes now. He can say some things that maybe he's been wanting to say, to a couple guys on the other side, point some fingers. So without, being too over the top. So it's balls in your court now. So we'll know.
Or he can Todd, he can go over the top if he wants at this point. He can do it because he's in charge now. And I think I think he was named interim, right? So listen, he's got however long this negotiating takes to prove that this is his job. And I'm assuming for a labor lawyer, this has got to be a top job. I don't know what he's going to make or what they make, but I'm sure it's not chump change, right? And if you are, okay, if you're passionate, Todd, if you're passionate about this, sure, go ahead.
So he was making about $1.5 million, and Tony Clark was making about $3 and change. Now, in comparison, Rob Manfred makes like $20 million, and many of his people around him make tons of money. But some people still look at that. Yeah, it's a lot of money, right? So
we don't know. I had no clue. Nobody.
Yeah, those numbers have to be filed. It's labor law.
All right, yeah, but I'm just saying, if you ask all the players, I would say 50% at least don't know, which is fine. I'm just saying. And I think AJ brought it up a little bit. There was a lot of stuff, players that we didn't know about, which at the time, it's like, whatever, they're doing their job, good stuff. But there's a lot of little things that would go unnoticed, and maybe something different here now for the players that they'll know more. But yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So those are the numbers. That's as much as we can tell you about what goes on inside all of this.
Yeah, but Scott, the money's nice, right? But if you're Bruce Meyer and you want to keep that job and you want to move up to the Tony Clark salary,
Mm.
you go prove it. You have 12 months, a year, whatever it is, till December. Prove it. Prove that you're behind the players. Prove that you can get a good deal done. Because once you do that, then I'm not saying you get 4 years off after, or 5 years or 3 years or whatever the next CBA is, but then you get time to kind of reload, relax, get all your people in place that you want in place for the next war, which comes every 3, 4, 5 years. It's usually 4 years they sign these deals for. So it's about every 4 years when they have these. So if you get a good one and the players are behind you, guess what? You can keep this job for a long time. Ask Don Fear, ask Marvin Miller, right? The guys that the main people that everyone knows. You can keep this job for a long time. And listen, $3.5 million, foul territory ain't even paying Todd $3.5 million.
Hey, man.
Well, let me. You don't know that. Let me tell you this though, because people look at player money, right, and they think, oh, that's crazy. But then you're like, hey, they're splitting a pot. Otherwise, it's going to an owner who just runs a team and makes plenty of money off that team too. So they're splitting a massive pot. Just to give you perspective, I did the math quickly because I actually read an article just randomly last night. Couldn't sleep. Wall Street Journal. Top rate right now that's going for the top end lawyers, because they always keep upping it. Do you know what it's at now per hour? If you get in the tippy top on the competition, $3,500 an hour. So if you lay that out over the course of a year, do you know how much money that is salary wise? $7 million.
I got two cousins that just got finished there, so I'm like, you know what? Smart move.
Law school?
Yeah. So
it's good living if you're at the top of the class.
You can make,
obviously, there's plenty of lawyers that make $100,000, but I'm saying the tippy top are charging $3,500. It's a Wall Street Journal article from yesterday.
I saw it. Plus, not only that, Scott, depending on what kind of what kind of lawyer you are, let's say you're a class action, Morgan and Morgan, whatever you want to call it, you can make way more money. Because if you hit this, I know a friend who is one of those guys, and they hit one of those big ones, and they are stupid, crazy rich because they hit these big ones that are tobacco, asbestos, right? What was the Julia Roberts movie that one time with the water thing in the South? Aaron Brockovich, right? Yeah. I mean, her lawyers made a killing. So if you like reading, then it's a great profession. If you like arguing, then you become a defense attorney or a prosecutor. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you can do you can make a lot of money. How come, by the way, how come nobody puts a salary cap or wants a salary cap on lawyers, Scott?
Well, there's not a salary cap on a free market in our world, right? If you come up with an app, you're allowed to make more. Yes, this is a free market country, and baseball is Americana. And that's why we really should be looking at the reverse end of, if you can't spend one penny in the off season, and no offense, but like yesterday, we got a lot of backlash. We're talking to the Guardians. They were great with us, but like when they say we basically couldn't do anything in the off season, fans are like, if you can't do anything, are you the right person to be owning the team? I'm talking about the front office, but if you can't spend a dime, maybe you need to relook at how you're running your business. So that's real talk on what's going on here. So hopefully this was informative for everyone. And I will say, to sum it up, from a fan perspective, I think this is important because most of the people watching and listening are baseball fans. They don't work within the industry. They go, how does this affect me? It affects you just about zero. It's the same exact people that would be putting together the case to have conversations with the league, like the same exact to a T. Tony Clark is not the lawyer in this conversation. He wasn't the one doing the negotiating. So almost nothing changes. And yes, if anything, the guy who was doing the lead negotiating now will have more say. So does it affect how the next CBA works? Yeah, probably a little bit. Does it affect the timing, if we'll miss games or not? Not really. It's going to be the same stances from this team and from the players. All right. Any questions or anything we missed there? If you watch this afterward, drop comments. I know we post this separately on YouTube, and then I'll go back and forth with fans and explain to them how I truly don't care who gets what out of all of this. I just want games to be played and teams to give a crap.